Concept of learning by doing represents a cornerstone of studio teaching. Art, architecture, and design studio is characterized by small class sizes, processes of critical reflection, extended periods of individual contact with the instructor through project critique, and a range of activities that reflect and integrate professional practice within a non-structured learning environment. In addition to specific discipline skills, studio aims to develop students' passion, rigor, commitment, independence, critical thinking, and flexibility skills, to just name the few. Studio pedagogy calls for a direct and individually aimed communication that has multiple advantages reflected in the instructor's opportunity to learn more about each student, their strengths and weaknesses, and engage in meaningful, result-driven communication. There are a number of complexities related to teaching studios, and these apply to all disciplines that revolve around a model of practical teaching and learning. Students of design studios rely on the instructor as a pivotal figure to provide them with structure necessary for learning. Constructive feedback, including praise, criticism, and advice, seems crucial to learning process within creative education. However, this process also imposes greater responsibility on the instructor, as the type of individual feedback, if not properly delivered, may have a negative impact on students' self-esteem and their level of engagement. Students attending studios develop their knowledge and skills independently and often through guidance and partnership with the instructor. This idea represents a deviation from general education pedagogy that has for years been based on a teaching model that alienated instructors and students. So, how is teaching a studio really different from teaching a conventional theory-based class?
While in a class you deliver the instruction to the whole class, in studio I have again the privilege of sitting with each of the students and kind of modulate my teaching because of their personality, because of their knowledge, because of their background, and so on. Therefore, I think it's very effective.
I'm also interested to encourage an openness in the approach of learning and also in the discipline of design and architecture.
Teaching studio is a kind of a careful balancing act. You have to balance constraints, right, with kind of flexibility.
Studio, I think first of all, is creative endeavor. Everyone is trying to do something that's in their mind interesting, but at the same time responds to an outside set of criteria that's been given to them. I think from that perspective, it becomes unique and individualized.
In a studio-based situation, one of the major things is you're able to look at individuals and motivate them individually rather than as a group.
Educators are now looking into studio teaching dynamics and practices for inspiration on how to promote collaborative learning, interaction, experimentation, and critical thinking through the process of discovery. This implies that teaching techniques previously only seen and experienced in studios are becoming recognized as valuable methodologies for improving students' engagement across all disciplines. So, what are some core teaching techniques that can be implemented to improve one's studio teaching?
I think that what I attempt to do in my classes is bring in projects that are exciting for me, because I think if you bring in that energy into the class, it's kind of contagious, and the students are very sensitive towards that.
The way that I approach it is there's a tremendous amount of improvisational work. It is not as structured typically as other kind of first year experiences are.
Allowing students again to maintain their own mode of thinking, not necessarily imposing an idea upon them, but trying to kind of act as a support structure for their own learning.
It's very important that they know that you're relevant. So in that sense, I think practicing alongside teaching is very important.
And then, you know, that's the way how to relate. As I say, the professionalism, you know, authoritative teaching, and at the same time, fun environment, because we're human beings, you know. So we need to establish this kind of relationship.
It's a very like tricky balance to strike between being like a figure that they respect and look up to, and being someone who they can connect with on a human level.
So like, it's almost there's a sense of shamelessness. Like, I struggled with this, and like, you know what, my foundations class was like, I got a D. Like things like that. So I'm very shameless about my own growth and also my own struggles.
A great studio instructor is someone who really cares about the well-being of the students and the amount that they learn, and he makes sure to put them through processes where they learn new things. So it's like putting them out of their comfort zone, but like for a purpose.
Well, first and foremost, they should care about whether or not my work is working. So, is it good or is it bad, and why, so I can improve. So there's this constant idea that I can improve. I hate stagnation. I hate being told, okay, you're good, that's it. Now what? I like so that they, no matter what level I'm at, whether I'm at a really low level or a really high level, that I'm constantly moving forward. And if the professor cares about that, then that's good. A second thing would be to create a sense of community. So it's not just me as a single designer, but it's also what I can teach and what I can learn from others and from that professor's experience over the years.
I completely agree with professors that dismiss grades, because I don't think it's a measure of any successful project or any successful designer. It's what you set out to do, your intent, and how well you achieve it. And even if it's not how well you achieve it, like let's not, you didn't reach the goal, but it's also about the process, and if you've worked hard and if you've like iterated and tried and like just gone through a trial and error, rather than just like, oh, this is, and also it's such a static way of like, just like judging a project. You don't do that to like projects in real life. Why do you have to do it in like a student's project, which should be very malleable and moving and progressing?
Like, to be honest, it's their job. They need to care about all 16. So if he cares about you and not about the rest, or he cares about, then he's not doing his job. But he cares about, or she cares about all of us, and you can see that. Let's say, like, you know, oh, I've seen your project and it reminds me of something, a book, let me get that book for you. And they do that for everyone and every person. So also the kind of adaptability to each individual. Again, staying back after hours, you know, sending like special emails for certain, depending on the work that they're doing.
If you can tell that the professor isn't really into the course, then that means that they're probably not accessible at all, and that they just have no want to do anything outside of studio to kind of help the student. So I'm guessing what I'm trying to say is that the professor needs to have a certain degree of care about the students, and then everything will kind of follow after that. So if the professor doesn't really care, the students will not care, and then the work just goes down.
I think if they don't enjoy the class, then there's no point. Because really it's especially in design or art, I think there's a lot of heart and love that needs to sort of come out in the project, and if it's not there, then I can immediately see it. It feels very dry, and it feels very forced and imposed, and a lot of it becomes just a quick put together of something so that they can meet the deadline or show me something in class. So if that's not there, I don't think there's a point at all in doing anything.
They have to enjoy it. How important, I think they will not succeed if they don't enjoy it. It's as blanket a strategy, a statement as ever I'm gonna ever give. What do I do to ensure? I have to show them that I enjoy it. And I have to be super excited every moment in class.
If a professor is giving a high amount of work and expecting a high level of response and outcomes in a given studio, but does it in a way that is dictatorial or forceful in a way that students can't respond to it, or if they're always receiving negative criticism or negative feedback, it doesn't work the same. It creates a negative energy in the studio. It creates negative responses to students. And believe it when I say that students respond to that and they talk to one another, it affects the overall outcome that you get from a studio. I think you have to be positive. You have to let them be happy with their work.
I don't know why you would do this if it isn't fun. I get on them all the time. You know, you come in and you see their faces, and I know they're just tired and they got all kinds of other things going on. They haven't seen their family in 6 months. You know, they haven't friends anymore. They probably don't remember their own name. But you're always like, come on, man, you know, turn that frown upside down.
I'm always making fun of them. And in the nicest way, like they never take offense, they never get upset. I think because they know I genuinely like them. And obviously, you know, I don't do that right away, but I think I probably get away with a lot that people can't get away with, because I really do, you know, as I get to like them more, I make fun of them more. And the ones I like most, I make fun of even more, you know, so I think they do. They leave, no matter what we're covering, no matter how horrible it is, or how hard it is, they always have fun doing it. And but I think that's my one golden rule is, you know, learning should be hard and fun. It should never just be hard, because what would be the point of that?
I think students are not stupid, and they're very sensitive. So I think that building that trust is one of the most important foundations, because if they feel like you don't care, or if I'm just here to do a job, they respond accordingly.
What they get out of me is that here's a guy who's doing this not because he needs the money or not because he's good at it, but because he really, really loves it. And it's not that he just loves the work, he cares that we love the work, and he wants us to love it just like he loves it.
I think the professor's personality is a part of that. Personally, I mean, I think every human being has some sort of battle. All of us do, that we're kind of moving through or that we've experienced. I think it's important to treat people as human beings. And I try to treat my students in a very respectful way. I try to be upbeat. I try to be happy. I don't try to be negative and bring my external problems into the studio. I think it's important that the students have good energy in the class.
If you ask them to take risk, then you need to be willing to take risk. If you ask them to be patient, then you have to be patient. If you have to be genuine in the things that you ask them to do.
We have to begin by never thinking the student has the problem. Well, if you begin there, you'll learn. If you begin by thinking, if there's a problem, it's my problem. How do I solve it? Then you will naturally get better at it.
If we don't like it, there is not much we can do. You know? We're not going to be available. We always find excuses to not be there and so on. You know, that's normal.
It's very important to not do it for the sake of having a job. I think if your heart is not in transferring this knowledge, and if you don't care about the design process as a bigger picture, if it's just about making things look pretty and nice, then that's sort of not the point.
A great studio instructor, so someone who really pushes you to do the best work that you can, and someone who is motivating, because there is a certain degree that a student will have self-motivation, but the studio professor also has to have this intrinsic motivation within them that pushes the student, because if there's no motivation by the professor, the students are very impressionable, because whatever the studio professor's attitude is towards the course, so will the student's attitude be. So having a studio professor that has no motivation, you'll get students that have no motivation.